Hey guys, this is Frozen Things Stews here, and welcome back to another movie review. And today, I'm going to be reviewing The Expendables 2, continuing on with my Expendables reviews leading up to Expendables 4. So, The Expendables 2 is the second installment in the Expendables quadrilogy. It's a sequel to the first film, which was mediocre and underwhelming. And it came out in the year 2012 and is directed by Simon West, and it stars Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Jet Li, Dolph Lundgren, Chuck Norris, Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terry Crews, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Liam Hemsworth, Scott Adkins, etc. And oh yeah, also Yunnan as well. And so basically, The Expendables 2 tells the story of Bruce Willis' character named Mr. Church, who reunites the Expendables for a mission a mission just for the sake of an easy paycheck. But then on the job, one of the members of the crew is murdered, and so they must do a mission like for revenge. But then they get caught up with another mission that wasn't really planned, and yeah, that's basically the plot for it. So yeah, I just mentioned a while ago that the first Expendables movie was, I found that film to be very mediocre, as it pretty much failed to promise what the Expendables supposed to be. I mean, I'm an action movie fan, it's my favorite genre, so I should have liked the first film, but it's probably it ended up being my second most disappointing movie in 2010. My most disappointing movie in 2010 would be Iron Man 2. But yeah, I expected so much more from it. Like the idea of paying homage, being a throwback to 80s action movies, featuring some of the most popular old school action stars, like especially with Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like you could have had a great one, but yeah. The main problem with the first Expendables movie is that it pretty much wasted the whole team. Like you have this really huge cast of of action stars willing to do whatever it takes. So like I mean, Afghanis himself willing to do whatever it takes to star in that film, to be badasses. But the problem is that the movie just relies too heavily on the main characters doing all the work, and so all the side characters do nothing. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger is completely wasted. He literally does nothing in that movie. And yeah, it really sucks that that movie made the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World flop at the box office. Yeah, I'm like I still can't get over that, because Scott Pilgrim is a masterpiece, but The Expendables apparently was more popular. I mean, it could have been easy for people to choose Scott Pilgrim over this film over The Expendables, as Scott Pilgrim is based on it's a comic book movie, and it could actually have sequels, but no. Instead, everything all the fame and glory Scott Pilgrim should have gotten with his box office went to The Expendables, and so now we got 3 sequels. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people I think The Expendables 2 is actually the one Expendables movie that actually is well received. Because yeah, the first one is mixed, and the third one, yeah, it's only started in Expendables 3. But The Expendables 2 is the one Expendables movie that actually does have some sort of pretty solid critical reception. And yeah, and so what did I think of The Expendables 2 on rewatch? And I gotta say, yes, this is so far the best Expendables movie. I agree with majority that this is the best of the 3. Yeah, and not only is this the best one, but this is the true Expendables movie in my mind. Everything that the first movie promised us with all went to this film right here. This is coming from someone who isn't really a fan of Expendables. I had such a blast watching this. Yeah. Sure, don't get me wrong. It's not one of the more. It's not groundbreaking in the slightest bit. It's not even the most memorable. And it's still flawed. Yeah, just because I call it the best Expendables movie, just because I love it and would raise the bar high and say that this movie raised the bar high, because it doesn't raise the bar high on this franchise in any shape or form. Period. But let's get to what I liked about Expendables 2. What makes this movie really good? Yeah, I mean, I just mentioned this a few seconds ago. The main reason as to why Expendables 2 ended up being as good as it could have been is that it just everything that the first film failed at. It's pretty much a perfect sequel. This is how you do a sequel. You actually improve on what went wrong with its predecessor and improve it. That's what I like about sequels. That's one thing I like because sequels can be always be better than the first film. Unlike remakes, where remakes it's really hard for remakes to top sequels. Yeah, this movie is a perfect example of how to improve from a bad first movie. There are a lot of movies that were like that. I can't really get some examples because I can't think of one on the top of my head, but Expendables 2 would be that definitive example in my opinion. In my opinion, this movie is works. This movie just works so well in paying homage to to all these 80s action flicks, filled with this movie has a lot of bloody action, and it even includes pop culture references that actually work. Yeah, this movie is scrambled with pop culture references. They say that especially in the final battle, we see them mentioning 80s movies. There's a scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger says "yippee-ki-yay." He didn't say the F word, but he said "yippee-ki-yay" to Bruce Willis. Now that is Kino right there. That is golden right there. I absolutely love hearing that "yippee-ki-yay" line. They also mentioned Predator, and there was a time when I get vibes. The final battle gave me vibes of Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the final battle of that film. Mainly because of the set pieces. The set pieces look very similar to Terminator 2 in some ways. Although, yeah, even though that's a nice action film, it's still nice action film. Terminator 2 is one of those movies that did feel like an 80s movie, and that's not a bad thing, by the way. And also one thing that this. Let's talk about the action scene first before I move on. The action in this movie is great and definitely some of the best action in the franchise. Even in the opening scene, the opening scene shows a lot of promise because the opening there's this really massive opening scene, which honestly might be my one of the best action scenes in the franchise. The best action scene in the franchise, maybe my favorite, but I don't know. It's either that or the scene with Bruce Willis and Arnold Schwarzenegger driving in a car, just driving a mini car, just randomly shooting things that come in their way. Yeah, but the opening action scene, it instantly gets you hooked. Gets you hooked in it. It gets you hooked, and it gets you thinking, oh, this should actually be surprisingly good. Considering that the first film wasn't well received, I think people wouldn't have been looking for this one, and making this the biggest surprise of 2012. And honestly, this is actually in my top 50 favorite movies of 2012. Well, I'm not sure, but it's nowhere near the best movies of 2012. But maybe top 50, not quite, but I know what I'm saying. But anyways, the opening action scene, one of the most entertaining opening scenes I've ever seen. It goes right into the action. It goes right into the action, and it actually does set up a specific tone that the movie goes straight forward in. One of my issues with the first Expendables film is that it has way too many tones. It's very inconsistent. It can't even decide which tone it wants to use. Does it want to be this or that, but this one it goes for one tone and goes straight with it, and one thing that this movie improves upon the first film is that the team actually feels like feels useful this time around without being too reliant on Sylvester Stallone and Jason Statham to carry. Yeah, I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I mentioned one of my main problems in the first film is how it was too reliant on both characters that I mentioned, just doing everything, and so the team just is just there. It's just there to be there, but they don't make use of it. This time around the movie actually does make good use of the team, and the team actually feels useful, and I actually started to care about the characters, even if not by much. I mean, it still got me to care about them. I mean, Jet Li, Dolph Lundgren. I mean, I hated Gunner in the first film, but now this one he actually is really good. And even got Bruce Willis and Arnold Schwarzenegger, who were pretty much the actors that the characters they should have been in the first film, but in this one, Terry Crews, who is one of the standouts in the standouts in this film, but maybe I'm biased because he's in AGT, and I absolutely love him in AGT as he hosts. America's Got Talent is my favorite reality show, if you don't know. And you also got some additional new characters as well. I mean, you even got Yunnan as the one female character in the team, who was probably the first female character on the team. You also got Scott Adkins, who has a very limited role, but Liam Hemsworth, who isn't in the film much, and honestly, yeah, I'll talk about Liam Hemsworth later because I got things to say. And also the villain is there. Yeah, I like Chuck Norris is there despite only having limited screen presence. It was a lot of fun seeing Chuck Norris in this film because Chuck Norris is a legend when it comes to old school movies. Yeah, yeah. So they do a great job with those films, and with those ones, the new characters aren't the best, but there are they can be great and not great. Yeah. And is there anything else to say before I get to? And you know what? Yeah, I guess that's all I can think of. But now let's get into my flaws because yeah, like what I said, I don't love this movie, and there's a lot of criticisms to be had here. Yeah, where do I get started with this? The story is not very good. I know I'm gonna say, oh, Frozen, are you just trying to make up a criticism just so you wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10? You do know that Expendables is not meant to be story driven, right? Yeah, yeah, I know. I understand the Expendables is just meant to be some action film with not much blood to it. But I feel like this movie is, the story of this movie is not very memorable. I mean, it's not a memorable story. It's not much of a criticism since I know that this franchise is not meant to be story driven, but yeah, the story is really forgettable. In fact, this movie is kind of forgettable. It's only memorable for being a great movie, but when you actually try to think deep about this movie and see what exactly was going on, yeah, apparently, it's not the most memorable movie to me. Yeah, the story is forgettable. At least I actually found the story to be even confusing. I mean, there's so many questions left. There's so many questions that why, what was the mission? That's kind of the problem. I mean, as much as I like this movie for being just simply a couple of big bombastic action scenes. I don't exactly remember what the mission is. The missions. I don't get what exactly they're trying to do. What the villain's plan is. Everything just feels kind of one-dimensional in the writing department. Even if I'm not kind of be way too harsh in the story since that's not what Expendables is about. But yeah, there's other flaws as well. The villain, just like the villain in the first one, the villain is once again forgettable. I would say this villain is better since he actually does fight and do something, unlike the villain in the first one where the villain literally does nothing. But like what I mentioned earlier, what exactly is the villain's plans? What does he want? He's just this random guy who comes out of nowhere with no rhyme or reason, and they call him villain, like almost spelling a villain, but just remove just use one L instead of a double L. That's also lazy. Like the fact that you call a character villain and just spell it villain, but with one L instead of double L. That just shows some laziness right there. Just lazy. And also, I do think Liam Hemsworth's character is pointless. Not really fan of I'm not a fan of Liam Neeson anyways. I mean, I don't know any good roles from him. I don't know. Yeah, I actually maybe there might be a good role in him somewhere, but I just don't know. I mean, Independence Day Resurgence, like you know that film. And also, I'm not a fan of the casting choice of. I mean, and while I understand Henry Cavill's departure from the Witcher series, Liam Hemsworth is honestly kind of a bad casting choice for Geralt. It should have been Chris Hemsworth. I personally would have casted Chris Hemsworth as the new Geralt, but that's a topic for another day. But Liam Hemsworth's character, I was actually surprised that he was actually in this film because I never knew that Liam Hemsworth is in this film. But he was just really extremely pointless. He does nothing. He's just there like, oh hi, I am Billy the Kid. Yeah, his name is Billy the Kid. And then like 10 minutes later, he gets killed. I get that the story is about pretty much one of the members being killed in a mission, which motivates the team to get revenge on the villains and stuff like that. But why him? Why Liam Hemsworth? Like they could have kept him in the franchise, but I guess that maybe he was just too busy for the Hunger Games franchise. Because this movie actually came out the same year as the Hunger Games, so they couldn't do much with Liam Hemsworth. But if that's the case, then why bring him in this franchise in the first place if you're just not gonna just waste him? Yeah. Now I feel like what I could have improved in that aspect is when it comes to death of Expendables member is kill off a character we already knew from the first film. Definitely not one of the two main characters. I definitely would have killed off some of the others like. Kill off, Jet Li's character. Kill off Dolph Lundgren's character. Like that. Kill off those kinds. Don't kill off the new characters because that's just gonna be a waste. So, is there any other flaw? But you know what? Yeah, I think I said everything that needed to be said. So overall, The Expendables 2 is vastly superior to the first film in every single way possible, and is by far the best Expendables movie. This is the only one in the franchise I like. While the story is forgettable and it's far from being one of the most memorable movies, it does make up for it with just pretty much doing everything the first film promised and actually succeeding in it. Like great, amazing action scenes, there's great homage to 80s action films, great pop culture references. All around, it's just a blast. Yes, it doesn't set high standards, and it's not a film that I probably would watch again. But it is what it is. It is a very serviceable film. It is what it is. So that said, I'm gonna give The Expendables 2 a 3.5 out of 5. So also from my review of The Expendables 2, what is your opinion on this movie? Do you agree with me that this is the best Expendables movie? Well, let's see if Expendables 4 can top this. I mean, I think we can all agree that this is the best one, but do you like this movie or do you not care for it? And yeah, comment down below, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay tuned for my rant on Expendables 3. Oh boy, that is when the franchise goes down. So yeah, bye guys.